Just a reminder that this channel is sponsored by me through my Patreon and Subscribe star. If you join, not only do you get all the long version of the speed paints that I do on this channel, but you're also going to get access to exclusive monthly content. And this month is going to star the Canker Sisters from Ed, Edd n Eddy, and a subject that's a bit too spicy for the YouTubes. But with that said, let's get on with the video. What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. Gigantor. Gigantor was one of the OG animes back in the 60s. It is the progenitor, or one of the progenitors, of the giant robot anime, and claims to be the first time that you see a giant robot being remote controlled by someone else. I'm just gonna take their word for it when they make that claim. But the most interesting thing about Gigantor is that it wasn't a part of my childhood. It was a part of my dad's childhood. And because this particular episode airs very closely to my dad's birthday, I decided to dedicate this episode to my dad and look into one of his childhood cartoons and have me a good gander at Gigantor. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and pal around with our favorite uncle who is a brilliant scientist. Let us grab a control box and power a machine that is bigger than big, taller than tall, quicker than quick, stronger than strong, and let's go ahead and fight for right against wrong by smashing that like button and talk Gigantor. So, this little pic that I am speed painting here right now is pretty simple. It is the two characters of Gigantor. It is Gigantor himself and the brave little boy who pilots Gigantor, Jimmy Sparks. This is the colorized version of the duo because, you know, the original, of course, was in black and white. There are color variations that I did have to look up for reference just to get, you know, an idea of what they would look like in color. And the funny thing is that as I was looking at reference material to get some colorized Gigantor, I discovered that they rebooted the series in the 80s. And the reboot version has like a much more sleek and like complicated looking Gigantor. And I had half a mind to draw that version of Gigantor, but then I realized, that would be a lot of work. And also, it's not the Gigantor that my dad grew up with, so it would be disingenuous. So I stuck with the original Gigantor. Gigantor started out as a manga in 1958 called, I think it was called Tetsujin 28 Ago. Now, Tetsujin translates, I believe, into Iron Man. So when Gigantor was adapted to come over here to the States, they couldn't use Iron Man because of Marvel's Iron Man. So they changed the title to Gigantor, and thus we in the English-speaking world know Tetsujin as Gigantor. But of course that was one of the big trends, especially way back then when you were adapting foreign anything into English-speaking anything. You know, it's not like these days where people are a lot more, you know, invested in keeping foreign stuff more kind of true to their original language, I guess, or like their original intent and translation. Back in those days, there was a lot that was changed around because if you were going to take this foreign product and bring it to an American audience, they wanted to make sure that it would succeed. So of course, a lot of things were changed and adapted in order to be more palatable to the average American viewer. So Frank Ladd, the guy who also adapted Astro Boy, was the one responsible for adapting Gigantor to the States. And according to my notes, only 52 of the 97 episodes were ever adapted into Gigantor. So what we know of as Gigantor, it was only 52 episodes, but Tetsujin, the original Japanese translation, or not translation, but the original Japanese version had 97 episodes. So if there's any hardcore Gigantor fans, you either probably want to take a look at that, or let's be real, if you're a hardcore Gigantor fan, you've already seen those other remaining episodes in original Japanese. So Gigantor is one of those shows that has a very nice and simple premise. You see, in the year 2000, a little boy named Jimmy Sparks lives with his uncle, Dr. Bob Brilliant, and young Jimmy has control of this giant robot named Gigantor. And so both Dr. Brilliant and Jimmy Sparks go on adventures, sometimes with these two policemen who are Inspector Blooper and Dick Strong. It was the 60s. It was a different time. Different connotations for the name of Dick. But anyway, so those four would go out on various adventures and have to stop various supervillains and masterminds from doing bad things. And of course, they would call upon the mighty power of Gigantor to, defeat evil and save the day. It was a nice little, cartoon you can imagine, like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, my dad, I can imagine him waking up in the morning, sitting down to watch Gigantor and seeing that giant robot, punch tanks in that very famous, 1960s jilted animation that they did, because the 60s were the beginning of trying to make animation a television thing as opposed to like the shorts that you put before movies. It's actually one of the big reasons why, if you look back at 60s animation, not only for Japan but for America, you'll notice that it's very still and very jilted. Look at Mr. Peabody and Sherman or Rocky and Bullwinkle, and you'll notice that it's very wooden. The animation is very stilted, and the reason why is because, like I mentioned, it was that transition from movies that had these big budgets on like a little shorts, which is where all the Looney Tunes comes from, and transitioning that into television, where you have to make, 24, 22-minute episodes. So you have to crank these fools out quick. So they had to have jilted animation. So that also affected anime as well. One of the big, examples of that jilted, strange animation, of course, is Speed Racer, where you have these still images. And of course, that's where the joke where, translating from Japanese to English, because Japanese is a word that has a lot of syllables and you speak them very quickly, the mouth flaps of the cartoon characters move really quickly. So of course in Speed Racer, and you also get this in Gigantor, where the characters talk really fast and they always stand really still. Oh, that's the joke. That's where that kind of comes from, is that evolution of animation. It was the birth of television animation. There are many, many, many tropes. There are many, many, many things in general that owe their existence to Gigantor. Gigantor essentially introduced the modern American audience to the concept of the giant robot that fights evil. Of course, we have seen many giant robots since, and they've followed very similar models and have had many different offshoots and variants. But it is very clear that Gigantor is essentially the giant of whose shoulders that we stand upon. So watching Gigantor, I enjoyed it. I got a few chuckles out of it. I'm not going to say that it's one of these great pieces of work that is, that changed my perspective on life, but I greatly respect it for being a pioneer in animation, anime, and many of the action tropes that we see today. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the year 2000 idea was really popularized by Gigantor. I mean, yes, it's been in other cartoons, but the point is, I'm seeing Gigantor's praises as a pioneer, because, as I mentioned, it is the giant of whose shoulders we stand upon. But with that said, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there for today. So you people know what to do. If you like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and tickle those sacred buttons. Go ahead and share this video and comment down below if you have something to say, especially if you're a Gigantor fan. I would like to hear your thoughts. Specifically, if you grew up with it, not only in the 60s, but when it came out on Adult Swim too. I didn't see it when it came out on Adult Swim, so I can't say that it was part of my growth there. But anyway, let me know either way. And like I said, this video is sponsored by my Patreon Subscribe Star, so go ahead and hit those up if you want to see the long paint of this speed paint that I've done. And also if you want to see the exclusive monthly videos where I get to say spicy things with spicy words. And of course, if you wish to stalk me elsewhere on the internet, hit up my links on the screen, but pay particular attention to minds.com because it's an alternative website, and I love promoting alternative things to the mainstream. And so yeah, with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I do hope you all stick around. And until next time, deuces.